So we will bring this meeting to order. Time is 5:44. Ms. Davis, will you please do a roll call? Thank you. Here.
Here. Here. Here.
Here.
Okay, the first thing on our item on our agenda is discussion on meeting minutes and board docs. So, okay, so I had the meeting minutes to be a discussion item because after meeting with a number of people in the community, their concern was about meeting minutes. I had informed them that we would no longer have like the basically transcribed minutes. And the concern was that since we are under a court order and those minutes have been submitted to the judge in the past, that it continues to be the same as documentation. Then they also said that, okay, well, what if I don't want to watch a 3-hour video on your meeting? You know, if we don't have the minutes, then I don't know really what was discussed, and I would have to still go through that. So that's why I put it on there to see what you all thoughts were about it, and just get some input.
So are they asking for copies of the minutes?
No, well, it was going to change. So basically, what we had before, because we didn't have the video, was semi-transcribed on what was discussed, who said what, and you could just look at the minutes and read the document and know what was discussed. It would have went to like a skeletal kind of like just topical. It wouldn't have, it wouldn't be as in-depth. Right. And so the suggestion is that it stays the same just for documentation purposes. And I just wanted to bring that discussion before you all to see how you all felt about it.
I see nothing wrong with that.
We're keeping it the same? Okay,
I have no objection either. I think
Okay.
it needs to be thorough, it needs to be detailed.
okay.
You know, I think the minutes that we've received is pretty standard that I've seen other government meetings, not only for school board, but other meetings as well. I think they're pretty standard to what we're used to, so I'm okay with the way they are.
Okay. Okay. And then the next discussion was the recent hires of Deputy Superintendent of School Operations and Human Capital and Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction. I requested that their resumes be sent to you all because that too was another community concern, the new hires. The concern that was presented to me was when we are under a current order and we're looking to increase equity, how were those hires beneficial to our district pertaining to equity, pertaining to our overall goal? So at this time, I guess we will have Dr. Moore just come speak.
Before we move
Okay.
on, though, do we need to approve the minutes, Madam Chair?
Oh, we do need to approve. Thank you. Sorry, Dr. Moore. You know, I've been on a roll today. So
How many minutes do we have in front of us? Is it just one meeting?
we have January 15th, and I think
The other ones were
And
examples.
February 25th, I see here.
okay, so if you look at it, you see the January 15th is what, previously, that was the detailed, and then the February 25th would be the new, minute style. So,
Oh, that's the
a
sample.
sample.
February 25th
Okay,
is the
so it's
sample.
not-
Oh, gotcha, okay. So I will move to approve the minutes as submitted.
okay. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, minutes approved. Approved. Okay, Dr. Ward, it's all yours.
Good Good evening, Board. Good evening, Madam Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to address you regarding the two fabulous additions to the Cabinet of the School District of Indian River County. As I mentioned to the school board during the second February business meeting, one of our members who is here, Board Member Rosario, I asked to be evaluated at the conclusion of the re-envisioning process, to hold me accountable to my commitment and passion to equity and diversity at the conclusion of this re-envisioning and reorganization process. The opportunity presented itself to bring in two key individuals who are highly experienced and highly skilled in two very specific areas of need for this district. First, one around literacy. Had the opportunity to bring in the individual who has led the reading initiative for the state of Florida, Just Read Florida, for the four previous years. Individual who approved, provided feedback, created instructional frameworks and differentiated instruction around comprehensive reading plans. To bring in a skill set of that caliber to Indian River District, the school district of Indian River County, was a very clear and precise addition to our district. At the same time, to shore up us in the ability to provide services, accountability, customer service, streamlined communications, upholding expectation, the opportunity to bring in an experienced superintendent, 7 years sitting as a superintendent, to come in and serve as our deputy superintendent. Had the opportunity to participate and sit and negotiate contracts. And this individual is already paying off. We haven't had a contract that has not been completed with our teachers union in which we had to go to mediation. We have one now. 14 days on the job, working with our teachers union. They deserve a bunch of credit as well. Dividends are beginning to pay off. So my commitment to each of you, my commitment to the community really is to have what I will bring to this board is a comprehensive realignment of this district, modernizing the structures and systems to ensure that we are providing 21st century learning to all students. We are designed in a way to enhance the quality of instruction on a daily basis. We have a clearly defined organizational structure that is easy to understand, clearly defines who does what, and as a district, we function as a system of schools, an opportunity to support our teachers, support our principals, to uphold our collective expectation. So my commitment, as I told the school board when they approved this item to bring on these two individuals, that yes, evaluate me on the total re-envisioning and realignment of this district. So with that, that is my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, just one. So I wrote down what was stated and you respond to that. Okay, so the first thing is that Mr. Bass comes from a district of 1,756 students, so it's the size of one of our high schools, and then their academic achievement for Black students is even lower than our academic achievement for Black students. How do you respond, I guess, to that? Or is he not, that's not what you brought him in for?
Everything we do supports teaching and learning, and this is an opportunity to organize ourselves in a way which we can provide the highest levels of support. Regardless if there's 25 students or 340,000 students where you come from, the body of work remains the same. The volume of work is what changes. When I begin to evaluate this district as a whole, there are a number of operational deficiencies. We have overlapping responsibilities. We are organized in a way in which we are not efficient in order to maximize our performance and maximize the dollars that we have. So this is a level of expertise to address those particular areas. So I am very confident that the district is in a better place today because of those two individuals who are here.
Okay, and then the third thing they discussed was hiring lack of equity in his district and what we have in ours when it comes to hiring, I guess, personnel.
Not fully understanding the question, but a commitment to you, to this community, to this body, is that hiring goes through me.
Okay,
And I am fully committed to ensuring, as I have said publicly a number of times, that we will be reflective of the community that we are.
okay,
And we will look to expand where we are deficient. These two individuals provide me opportunity and time to fulfill those particular commitments. Thank you.
you're welcome. Okay, do any of you have any questions, comments?
I'm assuming that these are new positions, right, Dr. Moore?
One is a new position. This was a district realignment. So these additional positions came at a cost savings to the overall district. So it was a cost savings of approximately $74,000.
Anyone else, any questions, concerns, comments?
Ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Moore. And then our next is the discussion of the African American Achievement Plan.
Thank you. It's me again. And I am glad to be here. Wanted to provide a quick overview of the work that many of you have, not all of you, have been involved in. The approval of the African American Achievement Plan and the work that lies ahead. So a quick review, January 24th through January 29th was the opportunity for me and Ms. Dampierre to present the initial plan for you, seeking feedback, providing you an opportunity to peruse the plan, understand the plan, and then come back at a time in which you have fully digested it and provide your feedback. We received and included that feedback from January 30th to February 4th. The following week, I had the opportunity to present it to the board for an initial, the same scenario, provide them the opportunities to review, seek their feedback. Then our third and final review was the 10th through the 14th. So we had opportunities to listen, we had opportunities to learn, we had opportunities to enhance the quality of the plan, to ensure it was reflective of all of your thinking, so we can begin to implement. And as I said during the last meeting, I was very eager to move to a place where we can begin implementation. I am excited to tell you as you know, February 25th, our school board unanimously approved the African American Achievement Plan, and the very next day, we began to go to work. In going to work, we asked our principals to meet with their faculties, to meet with their leadership teams, and look at the specific elements of the plan in which they were accountable for implementing. They have now designed their plans, submitted their plans at the conclusion of this week. Next week will be the opportunity for the district teams to provide feedback and follow-up, meaning by the end of next week, we will be in full implementation of the plan. A great deal of dialogue and conversation between principals at schools as district teams in order to clarify some questions that principals probably have. This is a new way of work for principals. This is a new expectation for principals. In some ways, principals said, I haven't had to do this before. And in some ways, we should have been saying, you should been doing this for a number of years. So I'm excited to embrace that change. I'm excited to embrace principals as we build the authority with them. And when I say build authority, we need principals to own this plan. We need principals to be the instructional and expectation leaders at their school. So what I've said in the implementation or the development of this plan, that this is a plan that requires us to learn and improve based on implementation. And that is the impact, that's the power or the impact that we're going to have. As we implement, we'll always be able to step back and continuously revise and modify the plan. And I'll say it again for the fourth time. If this plan is exactly the same or even similar when it comes back to the board after our 2-day retreat in July where we break it apart and build it back together, then we didn't learn anything. We're just cutting and pasting, and that is a disservice that we cannot provide. I'm looking forward to implementing and learning and improving the impact that we're having on children in this particular county. I do want to highlight on March 14th, I will be presenting the first update to the board. I committed to the board to provide a monthly update. We only have one board meeting during the month of March, so I will make that presentation. I'm sorry, we don't have, yeah. March 13th. Okay. I will make that presentation to the board, fully loaded scorecard, the impact evidence of what we've implemented to this point in the year will be shared. Looking forward to presenting that data, that information, as well as sharing what we've learned. I also want to highlight that on March 12th, we are providing our first update to the court, the progress report. In conversations with the NAACP and Ms. Green, the chair, my recommendation is that we collect a summary of the work that's been done to this point, have the opportunity to ensure that everyone's voice is captured in that plan, NAACP's voice, Marshawn Green as your chair's voice, my voice. We come together, put together what is a document that reflects the work that we've done since January, and that be our united presentation to the court regarding our progress report. So if it pleases the committee, that's the action that I would recommend that we take. We are in the initial stages of capturing that dialogue and having that conversation. I am looking forward to ensuring what we send is reflective of how everyone truly feels. As a judge told us in January, this is hard, complex work, and you're not always going to agree, and that's okay. But let's be open and honest about it, and let's come to an understanding as to how we feel. I think that's what our first report should capture, how we feel to this point, what we have accomplished. I will say I am very proud of what we have accomplished moving forward. I've had the opportunity to learn as I have done this work. Some of the things, as an example, that I have learned, last week we had an opportunity to dig into data. And we listened and put together a presentation that honestly fell short. And as hard as we tried to put together a presentation that we thought would meet the needs, it didn't. So what we learned is to really just break down or chunk down the data and really just dig into the data around the particular areas. So we agreed that we're going to do discipline, suspension specifically, attendance specifically, and we're going to go live onto the data and just share it and be open and honest regarding what we really already know, just to be truthful, but to see it explicitly. And as I reflected on that particular day, which didn't make me overwhelmingly happy, one of the things that I learned is it happens once, okay, but if it happens twice, then ultimately shame on me, and that's not my intent, and this district works too hard to have anyone think negatively of them. And because I didn't meet that mark, I don't want anyone to think that this district isn't doing everything that it needs to do to be in the best interest of children. So I've asked a number of members of the community to come in and serve as the African American Superintendent's Council. And work that I do moving forward into the community, I'll have the opportunity to have that discourse and that dialogue, receive firsthand feedback regarding what my thoughts are, practices, policies, and procedures that are going forward, not policies, but action plans, professional development. How do you think this is going to work to ensure that I represent this district in the way in which it truly feels? So I'm looking forward to receiving that feedback and making those connections. So that is the presentation to this point. Thank you.
Thank you. So I would just like to commend you just for readjusting after that meeting, seeing that, okay, you know, we need to revisit some things and develop better. So just thank you for that. Yeah.
Thank you.
So now with the African American Achievement Plan, could we bring that up? It's not there. Okay, so what section are you guys wanting to? discuss.
Recruitment, section 3.
You want to look at recruitment, you said?
I thought we had agreed to the sections that we were going to look at.
Well, okay, so it's African American Achievement Plan, oh, you're saying section 3, so we're gonna discuss recruitment first before student achievement? Okay.
So
Madam Chair, it doesn't really matter, whichever one you want to.
Because I'm just looking at what they're saying.
Oh, it's fine, whatever you all. I'm just trying to figure out what page is it on.
I say since we're here, yeah. I believe recruitment is, yeah, I mean, we just want to power through. I believe recruitment is goal 4, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure it's on page 43 of the document.
Page 43. Okay, so page 43, is it?
Yes, 43. So according to the chart on, the diagram on 43, when we look at 1819, this is the most current information we have. The percentage of African-American teachers is 10%, okay? And our goal is to increase the number by an average of 2 percentage points each year. Okay, so an increase of 2 percentage points each year, so that would go from 10% to, what, 12%?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, so the overall goal, I believe, is to match the overall student enrollment of African-American students, which is around 17%. So right now, we're at 10% African-American teachers. The goal is to get to match 17%, give or take, of African-American students.
So it just appears that we just got a lot of work to do. So what efforts are being made so far, like over the summer? Because right now, where we are right now, I'm sure everybody's fully staffed or should be staffed anyway, all schools.
Yeah, I'm sure there's
Okay.
some spots here and there, but yeah.
So we've got only really 2 months and 2 months left in the school term, okay? So the efforts that we make would be for upcoming school term, okay? That's whatever we do to enroll, whatever we do to hire African-American teachers really they would start in the fall, okay? So right now is a time where we need to just be looking at recruitment efforts, I would think. I would want to know what kind of, what are we planning to do?
So,
So what,
so just to go back to, remember last time we were talking about the 10% and we talked about African American and Hispanic? So I went back through the minutes and what we discussed was the teachers that identify African American, not Hispanic. So that's what, that's where, remember we were
Yeah.
talking about the classification.
And we weren't
So-
sure that was accurate data because some of those teachers identified as being Hispanic. Okay.
Right, so in the last, when we initially went through it, what we looked at for that number was African American, not Hispanic. That's
Right.
what we requested, so, maybe we can do that again, like request the rosters of African American, not Hispanic, when it comes to that, to determine.
So this form that I have in front of me right
Representation.
now, this has by school, and it has Hispanics, and then it has whites, African American, I'm reading from the back, but Asian, you know, so this one should have a good breakdown. Is that what you're referring to?
No, remember we did it, we actually got the roster, the name itself.
Oh, so you want,
Yeah,
looking
so-
for it by teacher, so you want this
Yes.
teacher's name, this teacher's,
Yeah, because that's what we did last time, remember? And then we also got like the lateral transfers, like who had been promoted. But this is also good.
so do you want all teachers?
I would just say do you guys want just African American or do you want all teachers? I would say African American. Last time we did all teachers and we had,
That's gonna be a million pages
yeah, we
long.
had a lot, yeah. Okay,
Yeah, just African American.
African American, not Hispanic classification. And then you're wanting, Ms. Sanders, you're wanting to know, so you're here for the HR portion?
Yeah, and there was a list of
Yeah, it is one.
African-American teachers that
Right here.
was
Oh, did I miss
provided.
it?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, I missed it.
So it is here.
Oh, I missed it, yeah. Towards the back.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you. And then, Ms. Sanders, you were asking about what efforts are being made now?
Yes, recruitment efforts, yes.
I know that there are recruitment efforts being made currently, because I know 2 individuals went last week to Georgia to a college recruiting fair. And so they are actively, we are actively going to recruiting opportunities. So I can speak from that, what I know, but certainly, Dr. Suit.
I know we just got back from Georgia as well, so.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We sent our information to you all earlier, but I gave you 2 copies to updated copies of the spreadsheet for our letters of intent and then our recruitment trips, because that has been updated since the information was sent to the committee. And we did go to Albany State and gave letters of intent to 2 African-American candidates. So we are up to 10 at this point. So I just wanted to make sure that you had the updated information.
you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, here. So they have
10 letters.
Yeah, because that's what it said total. 10 letters.
Kind of getting out of order, but. So,
So you guys want to look at the recruitment data or like?
so Madam Chair, if I may, I think we're kind of getting off track here. I think the intent of this agenda item, discussion on the African American Achievement Plan, was for us to comment and review the African American Achievement Plan as a whole, not necessarily looking at recruitment. I believe that's the second agenda item down. So my recommendation would be to either A, just focus on recruitment now, or kind of backtrack and just focus on the African American Achievement Plan. But I think right now we're kind of blending the two.
Okay, so what do you all want to do? Do you want to go through just the African American Achievement Plan, or do you want to address different sections that we have on here, the achievement and the recruitment?
We can follow the agenda. I have no problem with following the agenda. That's what appears to be the question. Even though we had already started talking about recruitment, I don't see any reason why we can't finish talking about the subject at hand.
That's fine.
And then go back.
That's fine, yep.
Okay.
Yep, perfect. Yep. So one thing I do, it seems like I wish I had my paperwork from last year, but right now we're at 10 letters given to African-American teachers, and most recently, at the last one, it was 2 from Albany State. So I'm encouraged that, we are handing out more letters.
Okay, Ms. Davis, could you bring up the recruitment trips? And then also the dues and fees breakdown. So,
So I have a question about this document, the diverse candidates by major. Is this education majors? Okay,
And I believe this is what we asked for last
It
time, so
is.
this is.
Yeah, it is.
So thank you for whoever put this together.
where is it?
It was kind of hidden, I missed it too.
Let's see that one.
What exactly is this?
I'm sorry?
What is it?
So this is each college for education majors by ethnicity. So like Barry University, for example, had 25, 3 who were Hispanic, 1 Indian.
Oh, that's what Miss.
Yeah, I
What Mrs.
asked,
Sanders
I
was
appreciate
asking for.
them.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
thank you
because-
for whoever
yeah.
prepared this.
So if you all are looking at that, are you guys looking at, because I want the.
Everybody be focused on the
Right,
same
I want
document.
them to
yeah.
see what we're
all over the place.
discussing. So are we looking at that? Could you bring that up, please, Ms. Davis?
It's up.
So,
Okay,
perfect.
good.
So, Ms. Sanders, you're the one that asked for this. May I ask, is this what you expected as you're kind of scanning through the document?
I was really curious to see if we had people who were choosing education as a career,
Okay.
to see, you know, because if we're looking for, to hire teachers, we need to know if people are majoring in education, because as you listen, you know, just all around, it appears that many people are not going in education anymore. They're choosing other fields. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to see what was out there. And when you look at the document, so we do have like 11 at Berry, and we're talking about strictly African-American or black candidates here. Cookman has 19. Broward, 52. And Edward Waters only has 12. Florida A&M has 56. So the colleges that have a large number of students majoring in education, it would just seem, just to me, that it would make a lot of sense if we went to those colleges. Target those colleges, yes.
Broward College has a lot, 99.
Nova Southeastern.
Yeah, got 231. And the University of Central Florida, 128.
Even Florida Atlantic has 97.
I know one of the things we discussed, and this is a little bit off, but at our last meeting was about the cost, the entrance fees. So I think it's, I'm wanting to suggest that they go to more like, for example, Nova Southeastern University, but there may be some cost, offsetting costs that detract from going to so many schools.
Yeah, it could be recruitment cost, yeah.
I believe they said there were entrance fees that they have to pay.
Oh, yes, when they go
When they
to
go to
those
the, yes,
fairs.
to the,
Oh.
yes.
Or if they offer a fair at all. I don't know if all schools would
do
offer
it,
fair. So,
right.
so I think it would be fair just to, see if some of these colleges that have high number of African-American teacher graduates in education, just to see if they are offering a fair that we can attend to and at least reach out to those schools for those candidates.
I'd like to make that recommendation to HR,
So what is your recommendation?
that we look at the colleges that have a high number of black graduates and inquire about job fair, and if they're having a job fair, what the costs associated might be. 'Cause they're obviously day trips, but if the fees are too high, that takes away from the budget.
Yeah,
It's already been
exactly.
allotted.
Yep.
Are there any opportunities for recruitment outside of job fairs? Because I know that one of the things that was stated in our last meeting was it's hard to snag a student when you have Orange County here and Broward County here. So do we ever have like an opportunity to have contact with colleges without it actually being such a competitive environment?
Does anybody have an answer to that question?
I think they're on their way, yep.
Sorry. They're going on to college campuses, unless there's a recruitment event. I mean, we have reached out to schools before and say, hey, can we just come into your class and do a presentation? But, you know, colleges and universities, just like everyone else, want money. So just for you to show up and be able to go into, you know, a class, it's pretty tough.
Good to know, thank you.
Yes.
Dr. Long, I know that they had the HBCU, so Black Alumni event at the GYAC. Could you speak on that? Because I wasn't able to attend that. Okay.
I did have the opportunity to attend, and I thought it was a very powerful event. And I have been to hundreds of recruitment fairs. I had never been to a recruitment fair where the local community were the ones representing their universities. So it wasn't a recruiter. It wasn't someone from the outside.
Right.
It were administrators, it were district staff, it were teachers who were passionately, some very passionately,
Yes, yes.
selling their school. It was a really unique and powerful event. The opportunity to improve, which was a commitment that I made to the sororities, I'm going to provide buses. If not getting students there shouldn't be an option. We should load up the buses, bring them over. We should be marketing and campaigning to ensure that we are growing our own. And I really think as I reflect and we begin to plan for what this will become next year, we are in conversations of why don't we have our own teaching academy at Vero Beach, at Sebastian River High School. There are programs around the country where they hand you a certificate of intent to employ with your high school diploma. You have a job right here in 4 years. You go to the community college, we can partner with them. We just can't continue to think the same way and think we're going to get a different result. Let's get in front of it. If you're in our schools right now, you're invested in this community.
That's right.
Now, being in high school, they probably want to say that the first thing that they want to do is get out of here, as did I. But you always seem to find your way home. And there's someone there who left and came back. Yeah, okay, there's someone.
And so did I.
Yeah. So, yeah, there you
Will
go.
do.
So we have some research that says home is, you know, sometimes you just can't, you want to get away from home, but you always want to come back. So why don't we plant the seed of teaching and learning and see the impact and power and the purpose in high school? So it's an opportunity really to begin to think differently. For me, we finished this plan, which is part of the frustrating part of this plan. It is in the middle of a fiscal year. We've had commitments and contracts and committed funding sources to where we're recruiting now. it was the hardest one to change or modify because of commitments of funds and travels and plans. But we are looking forward to getting into the conversations and dialogue of saying, hey, let's think 4 years down the road. Let's look at where we know people are invested in this community.
Do you think we could send, so we know that we have alumni in our community that either work at the school district or is here. Could we utilize those people to go on the recruiting trips to their own, like their own, yeah,
Alma mater.
alma mater, just so, because I think if I went back to Florida State to recruit a black teacher, it would be different because I'm here and I'm saying, hey, come here and I understand, this is, I'm from here too, so.
I don't see why not, just off the top of my head. And it is a powerful opportunity really to sell where you live and where you're from, as does a teacher. But I understand it, and we can explore that as well. But I'm just concerned we spend a lot of money traveling across the country and into other universities in the state, and the return of investment is not what we desire it to be. So in the coming years, it is a combination of a number of things. But I really do think we need to, as the state begins to acknowledge and fund teachers, an entry-level teacher, the pay for an entry-level teacher next year is going to go up in Indian River County almost $6,500 from one year to the next.
I was just thinking, Dr. Moore, about students that we have now. We have some students who are probably into second, third year, who've recently graduated, and they're already into their programs. And if we could maybe identify some of those students, because it was really interesting what you said about, offering them a letter of intent, but we may not have to wait 4 years. We may be able to.
So your idea is better than mine.
Okay.
So you're saying, let's go over to the community, at the state, Indian River State College, and say,
Let's find
let's
out.
recruit,
Yeah.
hey, okay. See, that's why we meet with everybody, and the plan gets better that's a really good idea, and you don't have to wait 4 years.
No, we might be able to do it in 2 instead of 4.
All right,
Yeah.
that is something that we can begin to explore right now, and it doesn't cost anything.
Right.
Well, on here, it says that they offered 6 letters with Indian River State, and they got 2 hires, yeah. So that's good.
That's great.
And I'm just wondering, like, at some of the schools, I don't know how we would find that information out. Are any of these students that we have listed here, are any of them from this area, from Indian River County, okay?
We would have to look. Yeah, we can go back and, we can pull that.
Okay, is there anything else pertaining to recruitment that you all want to discuss? So we have the dues and fees, the recruitment trips for this year, and then a diverse graduates by major, yeah. We have the list of African-American teachers by school, and then instructional ethnicity and race by location. So could you bring up the instructional ethnicity and race by location? Thank you. So we have Beachland Elementary that has 0 African-American black teachers. We have Fellsmere Elementary that has one.
Oh, she's the only one left now, Amanda.
Glendale has two. Osceola has two.
Rosewood has one.
Pelican Island, Rosewood has one. Pelican Island has two. Treasure Coast Elementary has one. Treasure Coast Technical School, one. And then Wabasso School doesn't have any.
Especially,
Yeah,
so
they,
they have nobody.
they have 14 teachers. One Hispanic teacher, 13 white.
13 teachers, yeah.
So they have 14 total. Oh, so this person identifies as white and Hispanic?
So I believe Hispanic is one section, so what you're looking at is, white, African American, Asian, Native Hawaiian, or American Indian. So I think, you know what I mean? So the Hispanic, Latino is not included into the total. As they identify as both.
Oh, because you have it over there.
So I think clearly there's some work to do at a couple schools to increase the diversity of those staff.
If someone could explain to me, when a teacher applies to the district, okay, are they sent to various schools, or do they select the schools they want to interview at?
That's a very good question, Mike Smeltzer. I believe that principals can choose their applicants, but in some
If they-
cases,
Yes, so the applicants apply to whatever open position at whatever school it is. We do not direct applicants to apply only at a certain school. It's a school that they're interested in. But what we do is review when they submit their recommendations to hire. We do check to see, the demographics of who they've interviewed, who applied and who they've interviewed, to make sure that they are interviewing a diverse pool.
Okay, so an applicant actually could interview with several principals,
Oh, yes, ma'am.
right?
Yes, ma'am. And most of them do.
Well, do the principals, are they allowed to request potential teachers? to
so can
interview?
they ask HR for
Maybe they,
recommendations? Is that the question?
are they allowed to?
Most certainly. When we get into kind of the slow times of hires, in between the start of the school year and Christmas break, because you have two graduation dates, December, the middle of the year, and June. So October, November timeframe, there's not a large pool. So a lot of the principals will reach out to us, in contacts that we've made with different applicants at recruiting events or in the community or wherever. We'll direct them to reach out to them and talk to them to try and get them to apply. And really, in talking recruitment, the greatest recruiters are really, it's everyone sitting in this room. It's everyone in the community. It's word of mouth. Going, like Dr. Moore said, going to a college in another state, or in Jacksonville or Miami, to get them to come here, it's tough. And I think there's a stigma you hear it around time. Oh, I wouldn't want to be a teacher. I couldn't do that. And we need to change that paradigm and say, you know what?
We do.
We need to take care of our children. I'm sure we all know someone in the community who has a degree that's working at Macy's or Dillard's, they're closed now, but working somewhere that has a degree. If they have a 4-year degree, it doesn't. It's not in teaching, but send them to us. We can move them to getting that teaching certificate.
Have you all ever, I was hired, it was an ad in the Birmingham News. And I went to the interview. This was from California. And I just went to the interview. And I was interviewed, and this guy said, well, would you like the job? And I said, yes. And he said, well, you got the job. And I'm wondering,
Yeah,
You know, that's-
that would be
That's
great.
a-
We do the letters of intent. And just to kind of reiterate, the letters of intent it's a conditional offer. You know, they have to go through things. And unfortunately, with the state of Florida and laws, you know, we can't do that anymore. We can't say, you know what, you have a job, because we got to do background screenings, and we have to make sure your certification and all these other things. So it makes it a little bit tougher on us.
So I have a question about action step 4.7. It says utilize the hiring protocol of universal applications, structured interviewing by individuals in the district office and interviewing by individual school principals and/or members of the school improvement team. And then it says implementation timeline March 1st. Are you guys on target? Have you completed that, or?
Yeah, we are moving towards that. I mean, it's a shift in the way that we do things. You know, we haven't really started the staffing process for the schools next year yet, so we're not 100% sure what numbers we're going to have and where they're going to be needed. So, I mean, yes, we are on target to do that. It's just we got to get to where we're hiring people.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions? We keep having Mr. Swell come on.
Quite all right.
He's getting his exercise tonight, so.
That's what we're here for.
Want a cookie while you're up here?
Oh, gosh.
Great.
I'm watching my figure. Thank you, though.
I would just hope that the principals who really need African-American
Yes.
teachers at their school, that they have that as a high priority for them.
Yes.
When they begin to interview, they go into the interview saying, you know what, this is what I need, and, you know.
Yes, and that, you know, that is, so that is, you know, something that we, you know, we are letting them know, hey, you need to take a look at your staff. And when this past recruiting trip to Albany, Mr. Colstead, the principal at Walbasso, went. I mean, he obviously needs a diverse staff. So, you know, we,
That's what I was gonna
yep.
He definitely-
Yeah, and then also, we have, we scheduled Miss Finnegan, the principal at Beachland, to attend some events to try and get her some staff there as well. And then
Yeah.
also with Mr. Bass and the superintendent, I'm sure they're going to be looking at the distribution of staff.
Yes, Mr. Colstead, they gave out 2 offer
Yes.
letters,
Yes.
yeah, at Albany State. Anyone else?
So I will say, I know it is a priority and for principals to look at a diverse pool of applicants, and, you know, if they don't, then they're going to have to, you know, report to Dr. Moore. So I know that is a priority that's been set for them, so.
Yeah, because he's kind of scary.
He's kind of scary, is that what you said? Mrs. Dampierre saying, yeah. No,
He
so I-
really isn't.
I don't
Anyone
have
else?
any questions. Thank you for getting
Thank you.
everything prepared for us.
And then if you have any other requests, then just let Ms. Davis know, and we'll get it to you.
Thank you.
We could leave him alone.
Okay, so do you all want to go to the African American Achievement Plan and look at the recruitment portion of it? Because we could do it that way, just because we're going over recruitment, we just look at the area pertaining to the section that we're going over. And that, you said that started on 43?
43.
And page 44 starts with like the different action steps that we have.
So basically, once the timeline, once we reach the timeline, we would just expect some progress updates as to, so everything that comes in March, you know, we'll probably get it April. We'll probably get it in the April meeting. But that's what I would
So
expect
then
to
there-
see.
So it says create a recruitment plan, which includes, okay,
Visits to the,
this plan will include the allocation. And that's what we got today. We did get,
Yeah.
And I believe these documents will be posted online as well, so.
And it looks like they're already working on the identification of African-American students in the district who would make great teachers. But one of the things that I can say about recruiting students as teachers, the impact that teachers have upon those students. You would want to be a teacher if you had a great teacher that worked with you, okay? Because I remember all the great teachers that I had when I was in high school,
I think we all-
elementary,
Right about
okay?
that.
And that's what really motivates you to become a teacher, because you had someone that was so wonderful, okay?
Yeah, I agree.
they had picked you out already. They started off me in
Yeah.
elementary school.
That's
I mean, it's
right.
interesting,
Sure.
but it was elementary school.
Yeah, you're right.
And it's kind of like they mentored you throughout your educational career, okay? A teacher, there was a teacher that mentored you, and even once you left her class, she still was checking on you to see how you were
Exactly.
doing.
Those relationships are
Okay.
very important.
Right.
A tremendous difference.
One thing I saw in this plan is 4.22, and I think it's a great idea as we start to establish partnerships with our community organizations, fraternities, sororities, alumni groups. We already talked about that tonight, as well as Indian River State College. So a lot of those things that we talked about is already in the plan, which I think is great, yeah. So if you also look at action step 4.25, it says the deputy superintendent will monitor any new hires to ensure a diverse staff, so that is, you know, a part of the plan.
So, 1st of April.
4.26 talks about creating a process that includes a diverse interview committee to interview teacher candidates. So, how many people actually sit on this committee, this interview committee?
I think it's typically about 3, I think would be the minimum.
Yeah, I think it varies by school. I've
It
seen as
depends on
many.
their leadership. Okay.
Yes, yes.
I believe that 3 is the minimum, and then it should be a diverse
So it's the
committee.
principal and a couple of other
Could
people.
be IP, it could be a teacher, or it could be a
Teacher,
department chair, yeah,
coaches.
coaches, so, but that committee should be diverse as well.
but I think,
But do they-
I think they're changing it to be uniform. Isn't that what the one?
Yeah, so, well, the applications will be uniform, some of the questions may be uniform. This is saying, you know, like, you know, a minimum of 3 people on an interview committee that's diverse, you know what I mean? So, and that diverse committee should be interviewing a diverse set of applicants as well.
Are
So
they
it's-
progressive enough to include parents yet? Have they gotten to that stage, you know, with the school
I know for some
leadership?
administrative positions they do, so I don't know
I'm
if about
just-
the teacher. Yeah, that's
You know,
not a bad thought, yeah.
because you do have some parents who are really interested in,
Sure,
and I know we worked with them.
you're right.
4.27. Review the performance improvement plan to ensure it contains appropriate corrective measures and support before terminating employees for cause.
So
I see that's to be implemented
Yeah.
July 1st.
the review of the plan should be done by July
July
1st.
1st,
Yeah,
uh-huh.
so, yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that we talked about was retain, we're having a hard time hiring
And retaining.
African-American teachers, so what exactly are we doing before we non-renew them? And so
That's part of that plan, yeah.
Yeah. I think 4.30 is really good.
Yeah, I like that one too.
So in Brevard, they have a local chapter of the ABSE, which is, I want to say, like Black Student Educators, I forget, Alliance of Black Student Educators. So they have a National Alliance of Black Student Educators, but Brevard has a local chapter, Orange County has a local chapter, but Indian River County does not have a local chapter. I'm not sure if that's something that, I know the school district wouldn't create it, but it's something that, like, self-initiative where, like, teachers could create that. I spoke with, at the conference I'm at, I spoke with a teacher who is a part of it in Brevard, and she said that they're basically just a support group, kind of, for each other, where you can bounce ideas off each other. If you're having some type of concern or situation at your school, you discuss it. If someone else has been through that, they can tell you how to navigate through that.
So it's a teacher-to-teacher support group?
yeah.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I would love to see more information on it. Could you send something to Brenda so she can share with all of us? I think I
Yeah.
would love to see that.
Yeah, because I thought,
Because a lot of times you're the only one, because I was at my school for years and years and years in California, but I could deal with it.
we can't hear you, Ms.
I said, I could deal with it for years and years. I was
Yeah,
the
you're
only
the
one.
Yeah,
And everybody cannot deal.
right.
With
They don't
Yeah.
deal with that well. But
Yes.
me,
Yeah.
I could, and eventually others started
'Cause
coming in.
I think that's a great idea, because in this plan too, we talked about, we mentoring, right? So I think some of the ideas that I think is in the beginning of the goal, if I remember correctly, is looking at, retired educators, retired African-American administrators come back and mentoring but I think this goes a step up beyond, so I would love
Yeah.
to see more information on that, so.
Right, because and also we have it in the plan about students, principals having a Black student.
I saw, yes.
So I think that that's the same way, like, we need to realize that even adults can use that same
That
level
kind
of
of
support. So that just aligns right with that whole opportunity of having people who look like you, who have similar experiences, to support each other, mutual support.
That's a good idea.
And we need to mention it to Dr. Long too, because I think she would be great at getting that started.
Yeah.
Actually, she said there's something else for her to do.
Yes.
I know
But I
that's
was,
what she said.
I can hound some teachers now, I can hound someone. to try to avoid.
It's a good idea.
Say If the retired ones would really commit to it. It's so
Yeah,
hard to
exactly
get
right, but
them
this
to
will be a
commit.
support group that they create. I think that's a great idea.
And then on 54, I'd like to have the evidence of completion to kind of show what we can base off, like document listing of all teaching and instructional staff vacancy announcements for each school year. We should get that broken down, because, last time we had tons of paper with that, so.
Yeah, we'd have to be very specific what we ask for,
Yes,
we're gonna get everything.
Yes, we learned, listen, we are skilled now with public records requests, because boy, we did not get it right for a while.
Yeah, we spent the first 4 months trying to figure out what to ask for last
Right.
year, so.
Okay, so then now we will go to achievement gap?
In the plan itself, is that the?
Yeah, well,
I
maybe
mean,
we
it's
should
fine,
do
I just want
discipline
to make
first.
sure we're, okay, whatever, I just want to make sure we're.
Yeah, because if we're gonna do if we do discipline, discipline is something to get through fast,
Hopefully.
yeah. So, we can do discipline first.
So that's on page 31,
So discipline,
alternative discipline placement.
so we actually have documents of
documents.
discipline
She's
too,
got-
and then I haven't found it in the,
Let's see what kind of assessment.
This table's so small, it's hard to spread out, you know? I keep on hitting wrong over here.
see, I got a whole table by myself. Got little stuff.
I believe we have two documents, right? Is that,
Okay, so,
is that what these two?
There's a few actually.
okay, there's one.
Did you have the appendix? that
Oh,
has
you're talking about the
three?
appendix as well, yep.
Okay,
Great.
here's a discipline.
I don't have to do the pen, I can just.
Whatever you want, yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it's at our discretion.
Appendix, okay. Okay.
Okay, so you're gonna explain the chart to us, Chris?
Which one do you want to start with? And we also have
I guess-
staff here as well.
Page 31.
So are we looking in the African American Achievement Plan? Is that where we're starting? So,
I would say, well, I guess we
It's
could
up to you.
start in there. Where do you all want to start? I guess the plan is a little more,
Start with what's in the plan.
okay, so that's page
31,
31,
is that?
page 30.
Page 30?
Yeah, that's where it starts.
Oh,
So this document is, as you can see, broken down by grade and by ethnicity. In some areas, you'll see where it's less than 10. Anytime it's less than 10, we cannot, of course, publish that. You will see, if you go across the count of students with ODRs, ODRs are office discipline referrals. That is when a teacher writes up a student, so to speak.
Document or you?
Page 30.
Okay,
And this is in the African American Achievement Plan itself.
it's not page 30.
Is that where we're starting? or did
Yeah,
we
so
start- okay.
it's the last, it's on the,
It's
like the
on the
bottom.
other
It's on, oh, I'm sorry, it's in the
Appendix, so
appendix,
it's
page
in the-
30.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
All
yep.
right, because I know I'm on page 30.
I forgot there's two page 30s.
Okay, I'm there.
It's the appendix, page 30, so in the back, yeah,
Very, very back, sorry, yep. All right, so
in.
kind of going across, you have ODRs, mean office discipline referrals, that are when a student is written up on when they get written up by a teacher. Those are called ODRs. You have the count, you have the total sum. You have the count of 1+ suspensions. Then going across, you have the percent of students with one or more ODRs, and then the percent of students with one or more suspensions. And you can see it's broken down by each ethnicity, by each grade. And it bleeds over, it's a pretty long document, it bleeds over to page 33 of 42 as well, so it's a pretty long.
So when it says less than 10, that means that it's out there, it's.
We cannot report how many, yes.
Right. So in kindergarten, count student with ODR 14, Sum of ODRs, 38. Office discipline referrals, 38. Number of students with more than one suspension, less than 10. Sum of suspension events, less than 10.
So that
I
just,
know, that's kindergarten.
and so that means there's, a couple of them are getting written up and not suspended, is what
Yeah.
that means. Or is not as often getting suspended.
In first grade, 23 students.
So you, just to clarify, you're looking at African-American?
Yes.
No,
For first grade?
Hispanic.
Yes.
Okay.
23, 47. Less than 10 suspended, how many days? 21 days. 41, 45 days, 21 events. So that means they're getting more than 1 day for the event,
It could be, yep.
yeah,
And that's in first grade.
first grade.
And my question is it really, I mean, them being written up or suspended, is it really an issue, or is it, I mean, is it that much
Yeah.
of an issue? Because some of us, as teachers, don't see the same offense as being something you would.
Can't we request, that's something that came up in the community meeting. Can't we request the reason for, I think we can.
I
Like,
believe, yeah, there's like so many categories, if you will,
Yeah.
that a student can be written up for,
Because I'm
but we
thinking
can,
these young children, give me a break now. If I can't control them, I shouldn't be there.
yeah, I mean,
reason for a reason for suspension. Now that
are you
we've got-
keeping a list, Madam Chair?
I'm really not, but I'm writing.
Because you're just writing one.
But you know what, I think that I did skip a public input portion, I just thought about it. I saw Mr. Stewart, and I was like, you know what, I skipped the public input portion. So, is it okay if we pause and do the public input for recruiting?
You're going to confuse it. Yeah, absolutely, that's fine. That's fine, I was just joking. You can
Because
start.
okay. So, now we'll have the public input for recruiting. Please, limit your comments, questions to 3 minutes, and
I'm the timer, right?
Our timer.
Everybody voted for me to be the mean guy, if I remember correctly, so.
yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
And I thank you for timing me and not timing anyone else. You impress me as being that kind of guy, Mr. Taylor. Thank you all. Again, on recruiting, my question was as to, are you still contacting job placement centers prior to you sending anybody there? I see where you spent $1,600 maybe at Florida A&M and did not get one person to commit. Let me get my paper here. I did see some over here about the money you spent, and you not evidently, I don't know if you're making plans prior to going to these schools, rather than just going there, because they all should have job placement centers. And you should be able to contact them with, and advertise your positions, et cetera. And also, I think it would be wise if you come up with some incentive, simply because of the 1994 court order specifically says that you should contact the banks, contact real estate agencies, et cetera, and get some incentive for these people to come. Vero Beach has a reputation. Oh, yes, they do. And people know the reputation that we have, especially being under desegregation order for 52 years. So you've got to have something to invite these kids, something that will lure them in here. You know, any fishermen's around? You ever fish? Okay, well, you ever been out there with one particular bait and didn't catch nothing? What you do? Oh, you don't bait your fish. What you do, you stand over there, wave your hand, and they jump in the tub. I understand that. You got magic. But for us that don't have magic, maybe you need to have some kind of incentive for these kids to come here. In some kind of way, I think the college, you're going to have to make some contact prior to going there. Otherwise, you're going to keep wasting the county's money, which doesn't seem to be a problem with us, not recently, because we don't mind paying lawyers, and we don't mind paying all kind of other fees. But when it comes to trying to get black teachers here. That seems to be a major problem, just as it is with having black students closing the academic gap. It's a problem with us, and we don't want to spend no money to do that. Somehow, we need to appropriate in the budget. If we can afford to pay salaries, if we can afford $250,000 a year, somewhere need to have some money to bring these people here. These people are not going to come here with your reputation unless you have something to offer them. And I think this is something where the committee need to really be working on some incentive. Maybe get some I heard you say something about superintendent's action staffs or whatever. Get some people that can come up with some monies from real estate, banks, whatever, and offer these kids to come to Indian River County, because Indian River County got a bad reputation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like to say that we missed you last meeting, Mr. Stewart. We missed you last meeting.
You might have, but I'm sure.
No, it was confirmed. We all missed
Yeah,
you.
we all-
We
we
had
all
no
did.
one for public input.
No, that's right, no public. And if you could think of any, suggestions for incentives, please share those with us, okay?
Concerning the hiring that Dr. Moore is getting coming here, I would like to address that because it's on my mind, but I can do that whenever.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, sit down and write your suggestions out. If you would sit down and just write your suggestions out, because I really would like to, we're open to, suggestions of what we can do, because we really want to get more African-American teachers in this county. And it's, we have a room full of minds here, and together we should be able to come up with some things that's going to work for this community. So I'm open to hearing any suggestions that you have, okay?
Great point.
Thank you.
You would do what we was suggested about, contacting these job placement centers first and give these people authority to hire.
Okay, so write that down, because we
That's
have
what's
3
up.
minutes. Yeah, we don't want to show preferential treatment.
Yeah, just write down your suggestions.
Hi, Nancy Alwerder, and I'll make one quick comment about recruitment also, is that I think that it can be worthwhile to try to get student teachers into our district, because they end up having a certain level of comfort after they've
Interns.
done their
yeah.
internship here, and they might be more likely to come back and work as a teacher, particularly if they've had a good experience.
That's
Right.
true. That's true.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Yeah, because currently we only do Indian River State College. So if we were to get some of the other colleges to have interns come as well, that would assist.
I think it's great.
Okay, so we will now move forward with discipline.
Back on task, right?
Yes, back on task.
So I did jot down that we wanted the reasons for the referrals
Okay.
and the reasons for
Suspensions.
suspensions.
And then we'll look at second grade, 41 students with office discipline referrals, 95 total. Wow, 21, one or more suspension. Events 44.
Chris, do we only count them one time? These are not repeat. I mean, this will be one student in the number 41 there? Okay, because the student may have been written up several times, okay? That's what
So I believe those are unique students, so those are 41 unique, Dr. McMahon? Yeah, those are 41 unique students, but the next column, 95, so 41 unique students was written up a total of 95 times, which means some were written up multiple times.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Question. The kids who ride the bus, we have one every other week. He comes to Daisy Hope, he's suspended from the bus. And I am trying to figure that one out, because to me, it doesn't make sense. But every other week, you know, we'll have a good week or two. Next thing I know, he's suspended for a week. He'll come in, oh, Miss Carroll, I'm suspended for a week. What did you do? And he'll tell me, and he knows it's not appropriate. But how does that work, the bus discipline?
I'm not sure if the school handles that. I think the referrals go to the school. Ms. Walker, I'll throw it here. Yeah, this is yours.
Are those
I know I
included
had to
in
go-
in these numbers?
No, I don't think so.
Okay,
That's
so these
another-
are just classroom
That's
write-ups.
classroom.
Yeah, buses or
Wait, the
bus.
buses are included as a
Oh, it is,
referral.
transportation is in
Transportation?
Is included in what portion, of suspension or the referral?
both.
So this,
Because of buses.
is this OSS data suspensions? Or is it all encompassing with ISS and bus suspensions?
When it says SUS, that is suspension is in or out. The transportation, if there's suspension from the bus, is not considered a
Suspension.
Okay, it's not, okay.
suspension, would not be
Right.
Okay, school.
Okay, so those numbers are not included in this
I know
data.
Will be in the ODR section.
Because I know I had to call to find out when I called the school, because they didn't know anything about it. And when I called, I had to call transportation to find out, to confirm
Yeah.
the previous suspension, you know, well, what happened, what did he do, how many days?
So this is in and out of school. I think I want to see it separate, yeah.
So Madam Chair, on this document that we received, it is separated.
Yeah, that's, well, with that document, I think we need a key or something so that it can be understood. Where's that? Yeah, like, so people could know what OSS is, ODR,
Are, yeah.
ISS.
Especially if you're gonna take this data to the community, they're not gonna have a clue.
Yeah, well, that's gonna be the concern with the appendix, like, they're not gonna know exactly, you know, looking at it. But that was discussed at the community meeting too, just being able to understand,
The acronym.
yeah, like it being user-friendly. So that's all our behavior, isn't it? Our discipline
Yes.
information? Okay. So do you want to look at the section inside of here for discipline?
I believe it starts on page 31.
Okay, thank you. Page 31. So these are gonna have to be printed, double-sided, flip, short side.
Is that the secret?
Yes.
I think I'll find mine, so
Huh.
I think I'll find it so I can flip it easier.
Yeah, but you can't bind it, because you have to flip it.
Oh, 'cause they
Yeah,
didn't
so it has
do
to
it
be
the
flipped
same.
short side.
Yeah.
Okay, so 31. So, okay, so with the discipline, to decrease the percentage of disciplinary referrals and resulting classroom removals received by African-American students as related to the overall student population until the percentage meets or is less than the percentage enrollment of African-American students, 17%. So that's where, my concern is, like, I feel that there needs to be, so it says here, in the addition, African-American students is 4 as compared to white students. Because even at 17%, I think the risk ratio is still gonna be large. So let me do my math real quick. So we have 10,839.
It didn't decrease a whole lot from 2016, from 4.37 to 4.00.
Okay.
So, you know,
I really would like to see what children are getting office
Why? Yeah.
discipline referrals for,
so the
especially
reasoning.
in first and second grade. That concerns me.
That's right.
So, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No.
It just scared me. They got your calculator out, so that's.
Yeah, because, yeah, I'm trying to, like, make it,
So one of the things we're doing right now is working on a code of conduct. And when you look at, break down into the offenses that students are being suspended for, I think the highest category is inappropriate behavior. The challenge with that is that it encompasses a whole lot of different behaviors. So it may be for one teacher chewing gum, for someone else riding a bike. So those are some of the things that we're also trying to mete out as we're revising the code of conduct, making it as specific as possible so that you can capture what exactly is going on with the referrals.
So if a child is chewing gum, does the teacher not just, first of all, ask them to get rid of the gum?
Sure, I use that as a very simple example, but yes, we are definitely, under Dr. Moore's leadership, going to have our first 2 levels. So a chewing gum, teacher does an intervention, that doesn't count as a classroom referral. It's only when a minor behavior has occurred over and over and over again, does it become an office discipline referral, potentially. But where we're moving toward is first and second incidents are interventions in the classroom with the classroom teacher.
So intervention training is going to be given and support to teachers.
So yes, we do give examples that they can use. It's certainly not an exhaustive list, but we do provide examples of interventions that they can attempt. And we will continue to train on appropriate interventions.
Well, I know sometimes some of us are the problem, the teacher.
The adults.
I mean, seriously, it can be personality, whatever, but, and it's not always the child. And we're trying to make them do something, and then they, nothing.
Madam Chair, if I may, can I ask Dr. Moore to?
okay.
I just couldn't refuse, so thank you, Madam Chair. If you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. And the days of typical consequences work for the majority. But for the others, they just wash right through those consequences.
And we got a new breed of children now. What
Yeah,
works for us, that's
and-
going to work for us.
Yeah,
It doesn't work for
it's
children.
it's a practice that is not effective. We, as a district, really need to ensure that we embrace and understand instruction drives discipline. if instruction is meeting the needs in differentiated way to meet the needs of all the students in the classroom, disruption in classrooms goes away. Removing students because they are disruptive and the instruction isn't engaging or designed to meet their individual needs, and putting that blame on the child is wrong.
Yes, it is.
We need to do a significantly better job of supporting our teachers on how to do the complex work of differentiating instruction, of how to establish a proactive, not a discipline program, but a system to identify what behaviors lead to success. There's a lot of work that we can do to shift that mindset. I've said it a number of times, moving towards counselors in elementary school, getting to the root cause of what's going on in the life of the child in first, second, third, fourth, fifth, allows us to solve that problem then in their life. Get them the support, the resources at the root cause. And if we don't, and continue to choose to address the symptom, that's 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade. So it really is shifting and providing additional support to teachers. I think in the middle school levels, we have middle school children who spend 47, 48 minutes in a class and then they move. They can barely get settled and they're already rambunctious enough and then move again, move again. So maybe we look at our design. Maybe we say, hey, we really want you engaged and connected, and we want you to use that energy in meaningful instruction and give you additional time to engage in those classes. So there's a number of things that we need to look at to improve the environment that we're providing children.
Well said, thank you.
So I did my own little risk ratio calculation here for 17%, if that was our goal. Basically, it'll be that, well, it's smaller, definitely, so it'll be African-American students are disciplined like 1.5 times more than white students, so it'll be significantly lower than the 4. But that's assuming that the discipline for white students stay the same.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm assuming that stays
Yeah,
stagnant.
because
So
what's been happening is as we reduce suspensions and
Everybody,
referrals for
yeah.
everybody, the
It goes
disparities.
down,
Go down for everyone.
I do have a statement I was going to share with the chair on her way out to digest for our next meeting to make sure that I'm getting the data the way it needs and wants to be presented as we dig in at what will be our next data meeting. So just to take some of the information and highlight it, really speaks to the opportunity to improve our practice. Office discipline referrals. 25.1% of students that are black have received a office discipline referral. And compared to, I should have worn my white, 11.2, Hispanic, 12.3. So the percent of the total black population, 25.1. Thank you, Pam. Percent of students with one or more OSS. Black students, 7.1 compared to white, 2.5. When you really boil down and look at the risk ratio, black student is 3.27 times more likely to be suspended than a white student. That's the power, that's the impact, that's the, wow, we need to change behavior that we really need to look at. 42% of all outdoor school suspensions are comprised of black students, but yet they only make up 18, well, rounded up here, 18% of the total population. 42% of all the suspensions, black students. Only 18% of the population. If that doesn't slap us all in the face, I don't know what does. So this is just a sample. I'm pulling out information just as a guide to get feedback on, but I just wanted to share that that's how I believe we should be looking at and have conversations around the
Exactly.
data.
And it's really, really sad, okay? It's sad. I raised boys myself, and as a parent, to tell your children that they can't do certain things because you know that they're gonna get in trouble for it, okay? Whereas they sit beside a white student that can do exactly the same thing, and nothing is gonna happen to them.
I
They're-
literally was in a classroom today where the
Okay.
student said that.
That's true, and students have said that to me as well, okay? I have nieces and nephews who've said that to me. But, you know, I had to tell my children, because you are black, you
That's
can't
right, who
do
you
what they do, okay? You can't. Because, and children believe that they're gonna be treated fairly in life, okay? They really do.
They should.
I'm going like, the world is not fair, honey. I'm sorry, but the world is not gonna be fair to you. Don't expect it. And it's a shame as a parent to have to tell your children that, okay? And a lot of parents don't tell their children that. That's why we got this 42%, okay? They don't teach them that. They, you know, so, but we've got to change it, is what I'm saying. We've got to change it.
So another category that is high is non-compliant. So the two highest that black students are written up for is inappropriate behavior and non-compliance.
And those are subjective.
Yeah, because fighting was like minimal. Like the things that you can look at, drugs, those kind of things, those are minimal. But when it comes to the subjective categories,
So how to get children to comply, basically, with requests.
So what are you all doing on the code of conduct to like remedy that part? Because I remember when we were on there, we tried to make as many things objective and detailed as possible, so it left no room for like, oh, well, I could make this a catch-all.
well, I think that really comes to training staff, because it doesn't, you know, what the code of conduct does is kind of guides, is a guide for teachers to use. But I think that it's a matter of training, professional development for our teachers, as Dr. Moore was saying. Really, it begins with instruction. So for me, I would say that, you know, we're trying to take that subject, like we define everything in the back of the book so that they should know what it is and be able to use those categories. We have some conversations with administrators also who want it to be specific as well, but they also want to have a little bit of room for professional judgment.
Like at Dodgertown, I've gotten to see how their classroom management has changed discipline. Like I think their ratio is 1-to-1 because on early release days, they had a consultant come in with the Title I money, and the teachers have been getting classroom management training. And so that plays a huge part too, because if you can manage your class, then you're not trying to get rid of students because
Yeah, if they're engaged and they have a good relationship, then
Yeah.
the behavior will go down, so.
That's true. That's true. Okay, so if we go to page, see, we looked at the out-of-school discipline. Some of the action steps. And that's right there, 2.1, provide a professional development series to school principals for the cultivation of culturally responsive and inclusive school climates. I think that is huge, and it also depends on who do you get to provide that. So,
Right about that.
right now, I'm at a directors leadership conference for community partnership school directors, and one of the people that we have with us deals with race and equity, and so we had this huge, a detailed conversation last night about race and equity in education. He has worked with with so many different organizations, and he talked about exactly what is your impact? Are you feeding the fish? Are you dealing with the groundwater? You know, just exactly where are you? Like feeding the fish is dealing with this certain instance, this one student, but what are you doing to change your process completely? And that's the groundwater. Like what exactly are you doing to change everything, you know?
Right.
And it just really made me think about just our interaction and the role that we play on the equity committee. Like, are we here just to monitor what is happening, or are we working to actually facilitate some type of policy and longevity? So even if we're not here and this goes away, now we see processes and things in place in the district that no longer requires any type of oversight. So when I look at the professional development, I think like this is definitely a climate changer and a culture builder.
Yeah, good point.
And I think there's also the same for teachers. I haven't gotten to it. Incorporate strategies for implementation of Tier 1 restorative justice, restorative practices. Is that still you?
So far, yes, yes.
How many schools do you work with? Or do you work with specific schools?
With restorative practices,
Uh-huh.
we have two, specifically two, well, we have many schools who have some elements of it. My work has been mostly with the two high schools in the last couple of years, but I can tell you that there are teachers who have learned about it themselves and are implementing those practices with their students, is focused more on building relationships, obviously. I do have coming up a Q&A with teachers just to try to, get some more information and design a training. We have a training design, but to be able to provide that, there are so many competing professional development opportunities for teachers. So in the process of kind of redesigning what that's going to look like to get more people on board.
And Madam Chair, action step 1.1 does address PD for everybody for working with students.
Okay. Yeah, because I knew that it was in there, I just didn't know where it was. Okay, so does anyone have any more comments or concerns with discipline before we move forward?
You know, one of the things that I found out earlier, because I had a meeting Monday, and the ALTOS program, the alternative to out-of-school suspension, basically includes does not include middle school. It includes junior high and the high school.
That's the middle school, right?
So junior high, wouldn't be middle
But
school.
so my question was this: does the ALTOS program include 6th and 7th grade?
Yes.
It does, okay. So if a student is suspended, they could participate in it. If they were in 7th grade
Yes.
or 6th grade, they could participate.
Yes.
But it doesn't include the elementary schools, right? Now, that was the understanding that I got, okay? That was the understanding that I got, okay? As we were talking, we were asking questions when Jeff was there. He was telling us that, no, they're not in the elementary schools, that they were in
Just a
middle, junior high, and high school, okay? So I said, well, that program needs to be expanded. It needs to be expanded.
I think that's
It will
addressed
be
in here, yeah.
They need to be,
What number is that?
I know it's referred to in
2.3.
2.4 as the expansion as well, so.
And the ALTOS program is at GYAC, okay?
because I talked to somebody about that.
So students can actually continue to learn,
But they are
okay?
suspended.
Even though they're suspended.
And they're
Yeah,
supervised, because now when they're just suspended, they're
And
not
they offer
supervised at home.
counseling.
And they offer
aspect in
counseling,
that.
that, all of
I
that.
think it's a great program.
It is.
And the
I-
students love it.
Yeah.
The parents are very thankful for it when I speak with them.
I think it's a great program. It just needs to be expanded to elementary. Because that's where you really need to start learning how to deal with conflicts and so forth, and, you know, in elementary, and then maybe once you got to the higher grades, you would be able to diffuse some of that instead of just fighting.
There's
Or
a,
whatever.
there's a
Whatever.
SNAP program. There's a SNAP program, I need to go back, I should know, I just met with the lady that actually, helps them with conflict and social interactions. It's like a 13-week program. Yep. Yeah, I don't know, I don't have the information, but I'll make a note for that too. What was the other thing I was getting?
The teacher support group?
And in merging the two topics that have been up, I was contacted this week to actually train the teachers at the Altos program. So they're very much interested in restorative practices as well.
Oh, great.
Okay, so any more comments on discipline before we move forward?
Through the chair, I just look forward to bringing what will be our summer development series. It answers a lot of the questions in what we're doing with principal leadership development, teacher development, and how we tie principal's expectation and the training that we're going to provide, really to recreate the discipline procedures to a culture where students feel warm, accepted, embraced, understand the expectation, and clearly understand what behaviors need to continuously be displayed to uphold that expectation. And moving away from, let me tell you everything not to do, and support you and develop you in everything you should be doing. It is a mind shift. It is a plan that will be implemented over a number of years. But when I think you begin to see, this is what we're doing over the summer, this is the expected outcome, and this is how we'll shift practice in schools to address a lot of what you've spoken about, you'll have a higher level of comfort regarding the direction in which we will be moving.
When are you going to explain that series to us, Dr. Moore?
It, depending on when we meet, so we are in design right now. We literally will be in design for the next 2 months. Mr. Meyer and his team are working through what that development will look like for instructional coaches, for assistant principals, for principals, and then bringing them all together over the summer to spend a week really disaggregating their data, being exposed to new content, and then really digging into their school and designing plans that they'll be implementing over the course of the year. So directly leaving with a product on how they're going to shift or change their practice from one school year to the next. So probably we implement that the third week in July. It's already been saved on the calendar. So going into June or early July will be opportunities really to show you how we have branded it, how we put it together, and the impact that we expect to have. It will be powerful.
Okay, so now we will conclude our discipline section, and we will have public input. After public input, we will schedule our next meeting. The student achievement will push to the next meeting because it is heavy.
It is
Yes.
getting late, yes.
Yeah, so now public input is open. 3 minutes, please.
Once again, I appreciate the opportunity. And
Please state your name.
Anthony Stewart,
Thank you.
believe it or not, discipline was an area that I had opportunity, a lot of experience in. As a matter of fact, I was a juvenile justice counselor for about 12 years. And I was the supervisor at St. Lucie County Juvenile Detention Center for about 4 years. I did in-school suspension in Indian River County and St. Lucie County. And I was the one who wrote the curricula for the St. Lucie County Juvenile Detention Center. that they're using right now. And one thing I have found really about discipline and being a member, proud member of the 101st Airborne Division in Vietnam twice, what I have found is that the same theory about the same race teacher really does apply. And a lot of time, if you focus on getting those teachers in place, that's gonna, I guarantee you, help with 50% of your discipline problems, et cetera. And I like what Dr. Moore was saying about creating the atmosphere when you tell a student what to do as opposed to what not to do. And for some reason, we have a better relationship, a better communication skills, et cetera, everybody with their own. You understand what I'm saying, Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of hard sometimes for black students who come from impoverished areas to speak the language that you got people coming from Maine and different places that have never been exposed to these environments. They don't speak the same language. Maybe we do because we've been educated in some of these colleges, but those kids don't speak that language. I had an example happen to me at Dan McCarty Middle School. I had a young lady go to sleep in class all the time. They would send her to my in-school suspension class. She would go to sleep. Even in my class, I called her to the door. I asked her, why do you keep sleeping in class? She told me, Mr. Stewart, my mother had me turning tricks with men. This was a 13-year-old girl to support her drug habit. Now, all the other teachers, every time she go to sleep, what they would do is send her to in-school suspension. If I don't take the time, and I understand there got to be, she was a smart kid. She was not someone who was illiterate. She was smart. But yet, she had a problem at home that nobody even take the time to ask her about. And until we can get people in place
Time, Mr. Stewart.
that going to be concerned about our children, we're going to still have all these problems.
Thank you.
Thank you. I agree. It's it's really like the cultural part, being able to identify, the students can identify with you. One thing I've noticed, just with being at Dodgertown for a few months, parents have shared with me things that they have not shared with anyone at the school, but it's because they identify with me, but then also they felt some level of comfort. And so I was able to relay those things to the principal. So I agree. Miss Dr. Long.
Can I just add this, please?
Time, Mr. Stewart.
They did lock up 2 men. They put 2 men in jail by this little girl. So that, I want to end that story that way that,
Okay.
we did take care of that.
Okay, good.
Very good. Good evening. I'm Dr. Deborah Taylor Long, Coordinator of Equity and Instructional Support for the School District of Indian River County. Just wanted to come and share. First of all, I want to say thank you because your work, I've watched it evolve over last year and this year, and it's becoming more intent, purposeful, and right on target with what it is that we're trying to do. So thank you for your time and your service because I know that it is extra time. We're all here together. So I'm up here to share that I have been tasked by my wonderful new superintendent with putting together the first ever equity conference for Indian River County. And so this conference, which is going to be entitled Equity in Action, Moving Towards Re-Envision 2025 Conference, will be held on May 20th, which is a Wednesday, right here in the TEC from 8:30 until 2 p.m. And this conference will be evolving and involving all county leaders within Indian River County. And so I will be reaching out to some of you possibly to get some information as to how I can contact people if I don't have that information already. But I did want to share that that is something that is being planned, and we are looking very forward to it because it'll be the first time ever that it's been done, and we are anticipating that it is going to be powerful because we will bring everyone together for the same purpose and understanding why we need to have equity across the county to ensure that our children, all children, including our African-American children, have an opportunity to be exposed to different areas of life and different prospects of what they can be, and also understand that these are our future. These students, if we don't educate them now and help them to understand and know that inclusion and diversity is a big part of who they are and what they will become, then we are not doing our job. And so just to share so that you know, and you all are definitely invited to come to this conference. We are planning that and it will be fabulous.
What's the name of the conference again?
The name of the conference is Equity in Action, Moving Towards Re-envision 2025.
And the date
And it's going to
again?
be May 20th,
Okay.
which is a Wednesday, from 8:30 until 2 p.m., right here at the TEC. All right, so put it on your calendars, clear your calendars so that
8:30
you can
to
be
2.
here. 8:30 until 2 p.m. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so now let's get to our next meeting date.
And as you're doing that, I do want to offer that I did double check, and skipping is also a very high category, and so goes with everything we've been talking about. If you don't have quality instruction or the relationships, you're less likely to want to go to that class.
Exactly right.
So what month are we looking toward?
What is this, March? So I would say either May or June. And then meet again after the state releases the student achievement scores.
Yeah, so
When will the student achievement scores?
Around June 30th, but it'll take us some time to, aggregate it and get it ready. So I think maybe middle of July, it should be ready to go. So if we plan our second meeting by then, it'll be good, so.
And that coincides with Dr. Moore saying the PD. He'll have the information ready for us, the training.
Summer development program that he was talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're looking at May or June, or both?
Let's say one or the other.
So May. June,
No June?
crazy.
Is there some information that we need to look at in May? Or what could we do it
So-
all in June?
So I guess that's, do we need to meet in May, or do we want to wait until we get
Do it to June, till
student?
you get the,
It will be till July
I
until we
mean,
get those.
July, it
Yeah.
would be July by the time.
So is that too long of a wait in between meetings?
And we gotta look at, we've gotta go through the,
So we still need to look at mentoring. We haven't looked at mentoring. We haven't looked at extracurricular. We haven't looked at transportation.
transportation,
So
because we cheated ourselves
those
with
could be a
those.
quick, I
Yeah.
don't want to say quick, but those would be a
Yeah.
faster
Easy.
topics. So I think that'd be a great idea to look in for maybe a May.
May.
April, and then July, we.
Be a big, heavy student
the
achievements.
cheat, yeah,
Yep.
the test scores.
Is everybody okay with that?
I think it works great.
So what if we did the second week in May? So like the 13th or 14th?
Okay, yeah, that would be better for me, because I think
The 14th?
we have, was in that,
Oh, okay.
that week, because that's.
14th is a Thursday, so that's fine with me.
14th would be hard for me because of testing. So
about the
13th for me
13th?
would be a better date.
Okay, the 13th.
13th is fine.
14th, I'll be in the warehouse, so you don't want to see me dressed like. So let's do the 13th?
Long days for you.
Yes, ma'am, yeah. But we definitely need more snacks for the 13th. so
You need some snacks. You said it.
5:30?
5:30, yes.
Madam Chair, thank you for keeping us on track tonight. I appreciate that.
Oh, I
So-
did?
And Ms. Davis will send us the invite, and then should we schedule the July meeting after that one? Is that fair with everybody?
Yes, that's
So at the
fair.
main meeting, we'll-
Because last time when we went so far out in
Yeah,
advance,
then we didn't
Everyone's
meet up in
schedule.
like August, right? We waited till
Yeah.
because everybody's schedule was
Yeah,
over, so
schedule
I think that's fair. Perfect. And then before we adjourn, if I may add first, I want to thank you for the snacks, Mrs. Atwater. Thank you very much. It definitely gave me some sugar to keep me going today, so thank you. They're delicious. And also, Madam Chair, I know you came back, I think I heard you're going back to Orlando tonight to go,
Yes.
so thank you for coming
Yes.
back and going back for that. I know that's a lot of travel, so thank you for
Safe
being committed to the
Thank
cause.
Do you live here or in Orlando?
I live here, but I'm in a week-long training in
Oh, okay.
Orlando
Back
this
and
week.
back. I know that's going to be
Yeah.
rough tomorrow morning and now.
Yes, it is. So I had to leave early today. But then before I realized that, like, I had another meeting that I didn't know I had because we did a grant from Impact 100 and we're a finalist. So that meeting was at 3:30
great.
today. So I was
That's
like,
exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting.
yeah, so, the community partnership, yes.
Yeah, I
coming along.
presented at Impact 100
did?
because we got a 100,000 grant.
Oh,
When I was
yeah,
working
That's
for
great.
EOC, we were awarded a grant, and I was the person that
Well,
did
since we're
the-
talking about it,
What a
we
great
need some
cause. What a
diversity with
great
the Impact
cause.
100. If you ladies are interested, I'm trying to recruit some people.
As long as we don't discuss equity committee matters.
No, not,
Oh, you want to
to
start, you
talk
want to
to you.
start one, is that what you're saying?
no, joining them to be a part,
I
yeah, to
told
get
them
some
I wanted to
diversity.
join them
Yeah.
last year, okay, I did, I told them that.
So I need to
wanted-
connect. you.
I did, I
When they
told,
first started,
Yeah, and they're looking for
Miss
diversity. I
Lloyd,
talked to
yeah,
a few.
Miss
yeah.
Elma Lloyd, because I talked to her when I was there, and I
Yeah.
told her, I said, I would like to join Impact 100.
let's
So
do
why
it.
don't we join?
Yes, let's do it. You're welcome to join.
Okay.
Okay, so we will go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 7:46. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for your input. Thank you for your hard work and dedication. We appreciate it.